All right. Welcome, everyone, to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. We are now past the bye week, so it's going to be 12 more weeks, consecutive weeks of football. We hope we go all the way into February this year. Um, I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, with my sidekick here, who looks like he's scribbling something down, Sean Williams. How you doing
Making
tonight, Sean?
constantly making notes, man. Constantly,
I
constantly.
hear you. I hear you.
Um, I
Um,
want to welcome everyone to this week's show. Want to first of all thank Fan First Productions and for being our sponsor, and invite everyone to subscribe to our podcast on both iTunes and YouTube. Living nightmare that I'm gonna go iTube and YouTunes one day, but anyway.
you just did.
Yeah, well, I told on myself, so that doesn't make it as bad when the mental stuff kicks in and it actually happens inadvertently. We want to invite everyone to participate in something new that we've got going on our Facebook page, which is going to be John Pinto's game thread. Just several of us getting together and kind of sharing the experience. I try to make an appearance on there when I can. And I have a special announcement that I need to make. And
Sorry. Sorry about that.
uh,
That actually wasn't intended for your special announcement.
those of you who have been following our show for some time now, there's someone that's very, very special to this show and to us. And her name is Miss Donnie Lambert. And as most of you know, been struggling, battling cancer. She called me Sunday, I believe, and wanted me to let everyone know that she had some CTs and some tests and scans and all done. Tomorrow will be a week ago, and she got her results back. And she told me that she now is dealing with cancer, not just in her lungs, but the tests reveal that it's moved into her brain. I'm really at a loss. Miss Donnie, I hope you're watching. I think you are. Know that our hearts and our thoughts, and most especially our prayers, are with you. We love you. And if there's anything that we can do, please let us know. I got to tell you, this hard on me. And Miss Donnie, we're going to be there for her just like we always have been. She's going to be there for us just like she always has been. But I want to ask you guys, as a special request from me, please remember Miss Donnie in your thoughts and prayers, because she can really use it right now. Miss Donnie, Mama Donnie, we love you, baby.
You know, we just passed the year anniversary of my boss in the real world passing away due to cancer. He had cancer of the esophagus, and it was one of those cases where he was diagnosed in May and was gone by October. And it's been a year now. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't miss his stories, his humor, his advice, and just him being a sounding board, because he was one of those people. He was a former Navy SEAL. He was one of these people who had been there, done that, did the replay, the whole bit, an incredible, astounding man who only knew for a very brief time, but still had an impact on everybody he touched. So, it's one of those things that one of my favorite Christmas movies is It's a Wonderful Life. And there's a line that Clarence the Angel says that always sticks with me. When James Stewart's character goes to the alternate reality where he was never born, and he died. Another Harry had fell in the ice and died. I'm sure most of y'all are familiar with It's a Wonderful Life, but when he finds his brother Harry had died, he found that his friends were different. Martine doesn't own the bar. All those things that changed. It becomes, instead of Bedford Falls, it's Pottersville. Clarence says to him in the graveyard, strange how someone's life touches so many other people's lives, and how it affects people in each way, and you never even realize it. And that was the turning point, really, for Jimmy Stewart's character, George Bailey, that he realized that he really had a wonderful life, that as much as he wasn't able to do all the things he wanted to do in life, that part of it, just him being there, affected so many people in so many ways he had no idea, and he developed a new appreciation for that. So I think about that whenever we talk about something as serious as cancer or someone passing. People don't realize how much of an impact they have on someone else's life, and it's a shame it takes us being gone or a near death or death-like experience for us to realize what an impact we do have on each other. So if there's one thing that can be gathered out of this, it can be positive, is realize that what you say, what you do, just you being you every day touches someone else's life in some way. And you should always then, with that in mind, think, how can I make that person's life better? How can I make that person's life greater? So we're with you, Ms. Donnie, and I hope that you feel how people are touching your life in such a positive way because you are touching their lives. A little rambling, but I hope I got my point across. I'm not very good at that kind of thing off the cuff.
Well, I managed to, she probably is aware of this, but I tried to keep it together when I was on the phone with her. But, when I hung up the phone, I lost it.
I totally can.
Moving right along. Big news today.
Mm-hmm.
All of this. For those who have not heard and are not aware yet, unless maybe there are a few of you out there that were living under a rock today, and went. Okay, now, and I'm really fixing to stir up something here, but you're Catholic, correct?
Correct.
Okay, isn't going from a saint to a cardinal sort of a downgrade?
Yes, it is. I've seen the post.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I've wanted to ask someone that all day, but I've refrained.
Yeah. In the hierarchy, it's priest, bishop, archbishop, cardinal, pope, then saint. If you want to go that way.
Top of the heap, but
well, I saw the comment, and yeah, it was cute and all, but you pagan got it wrong.
Okay. But let me let's you and I are both not nearly so much as you, but we're students of the game. We see how these sort of blockbuster deals can and cannot. And I'm not referring to the Peterson as being blockbuster nearly so much as the way it was viewed as blockbuster when the Saints signed him. Do you see any pluses that come out of us trading Peterson at this point?
This is what I've been saying all day, since the news came out. Jim Moore said it after the Minnesota game, and I saw it. Peterson basically is washed up. He is a Hall of Fame back, but he's also 32 years old. At this point of his career, he is not a 1,000-yard rusher. He's not a 500-yard rusher. He is a guy who has lost a step clearly, and he is not that bell cow back that people remember from the 2009 playoff season. When we had to deal with him in the 2009 NFC Championship. He is not that kind of back anymore. What he is a guy who can handle about 10 to 12 carries a game and should be the kind of guy who can, I don't know. Bob turned us on while he's driving.
How'd you?
Yeah, I see that. Are you the taxi driver right now? Are you going to be going? Are you looking at me? Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
I got the lime in the trunk.
Ah, there you go.
Boy, this show just took a turn, man.
I'm telling you. Well, it's not every day we get to ride in the car with Bob. Bob's enjoying a cigarette, got a little attitude coming home from work.
I want to hear him get to the red light and curse somebody out.
Hey, wait, I'm just wondering, eyes on the road, man, eyes on the road.
Guys, I don't know if you caught that Adrian Peterson piece that I made earlier today. I actually started and finished that in the car on my way to work.
I don't even want to know. Bob's on the road. Don't even get on the road because, he's driving, he's texting, he's writing an article and smoking.
And appearing on a podcast.
There you go. Okay. My basic point then with Peterson is...
Before, I certainly do now.
There you go. You got Jodie Foster in that car with you too? We'll continue the taxi driver motif.
I can't figure out why, but nobody wants to rock with me.
You're practicing dropping
There's
a gun at
fear of life thing.
Oh,
it's that effervescent personality.
I'm making references to a movie that most people have no idea. Robert De Niro, taxi driver. Just YouTube. Are you talking to me? And you'll understand what we're talking about. Okay. Anyway, Peterson. Back to Peterson. So he didn't fit with the Saints offense. He's not a closer. He wants more touches. And the Saints aren't going to give it to him because, quite frankly, Mark Ingram beat him out. Mark Ingram was a more productive back. And then now you have Alvin Kamara, who is a receiving and a running back. There's just no room for a guy like Peterson who is not going to sit through 10 carries a game. He's going to want to demand 15 carries a game, and it's just not going to work. So the fact that you can trade him and get a 6th-round pick or conditional 6th-round pick is a win for me, because this is a guy that nobody wanted in free agency. People forget that. No one wanted this man. No one was willing to kid him. He took the Saints' offer because he was looking for a place to play. He wanted the opportunity to play. And the Saints humored him, making him think that, okay, we'll work something out to get you the carries, but they already had a plan in mind for him. You know, that Ingram was the starter. Peterson, who hasn't come to the conclusion or accepted the reality yet that he is no longer the back that can handle 20, 25 carries a game and is going to get 100, 125 yards a game. That's just not going to happen. He's going to average, with Arizona, he may get his 20 carries a game, but he's still only going to get 3 yards a carry. He is not the guy that was in Minnesota, and that's just a reality. He needs to learn it and accept it. And the fact that we got a 6th-round pick for him, that's great. What? I'm sorry, what?
The last 3 seasons, how many Saints running backs have broken the 100-yard barrier?
Well, Ingram has. And I think, didn't Hightower do it once? Didn't Hightower do it against Seattle? Yeah. I mean, you can do it. You can do it, but it's a case where the Saints are winning and they're running the clock out by running the ball.
Yeah.
Look, the handwriting was on the wall against Miami. At the end of that game, they tried one series of giving Peterson the ball to run the clock out. Peterson didn't do it. They went back to Ingram to run the clock out. They did the same thing against Carolina. You know, they gave it to Peterson one time, one series. He couldn't get a first down. They gave it to Ingram. He got that first down near the end of the game. It's just Peterson got beat out by Mark Ingram. You know, you guys who hate Mark Ingram, who want Mark Ingram gone, have to accept it that Mark Ingram right now is your most dependable running back, and that right now Alvin Kamara is a fun threat, but he is not your number one back. Mark Ingram is going to be your back. Mark Ingram will end up being the all-time leading rusher for the New Orleans Saints. Mark Ingram will have the records. Mark Ingram will be remembered as one of the best running backs the Saints ever had. That's just, get used to it, especially you LSU hard-headed fans. Get used to it that an Alabama Roll Tide running back did this.
Alan, you bring up a great point. First of all, anybody that follows me knows that I hated this Peterson signing from the start. I personally thought he was done coming in, and I think the Saints coaching staff figured out really quick in the preseason that he probably didn't have much left. That's one reason why we might not have seen Peterson get much work. But the phrase you used, Mark Ingram beat him out, and nothing could be more accurate. But I didn't stop to think about that maybe they did reach out, staff did reach out and bring Peterson in, thinking, well, maybe the guy can't, if he does have anything left, then now all of a sudden Mark Ingram is trade bait. But as soon as they figured out that Peterson didn't have what this offense needed, and Ingram was the guy, that made Peterson instantly expendable. And that's it. Get used to it. I mean, Mark Ingram is a 3-down back, has been for a number of years.
Yeah, exactly.
See what he can really do when he had a full season healthy under his belt last year. Guys, look around look at the team that we just made a trade with earlier today. Would you rather have Mark Ingram as your running back, or look around the league and name me 10 teams that have a better single running back? You can't do it.
Now, someone's going to bring up Leonard Fournette because he had a good game against the Steelers. But, yeah, for the most part, you look around the league and you see a lot of running backs struggling. You see a lot of teams with no running game anymore. And, look, I think the Saints also respect Peterson enough to shop him. and they found somebody willing to take him. You know, and I've got some people who have been playing Madden way too long and are bitching about the fact that the Saints only got a 6th-round pick. You only got a 6th-round pick for a 32-year-old running back. I don't care if he's a Hall of Fame back. He is not playing at a Hall of Fame level anymore. Okay, he's done. So you got something for nothing, really. That's how it has to be. Look,
Yeah.
no one is going to trade a high draft pick for a 32-year running back. They don't look at it from the other team's point of view. Imagine the Arizona Cardinals, which seems to be the graveyard for NFL running backs, because they had, Emmitt Smith at the end of his career, Edgerrin James at the end of his career, Chris Johnson at the end of his career, Peterson at the end of his career. This is like the graveyard. This is what happens when you take old players and you send them either to Florida, where they get their white shoes and sandals and socks, or they go to Arizona where the warm weather doesn't make their joints hurt as much. I mean, that's basically what's happened. And if you watch Arizona play, Arizona is not a very good team anymore. They don't have a quarterback anymore. They don't have a defense anymore. It is not a very good team. This is a team that's going to be playing for a top 10 draft pick next year, and it's probably going to blow that roster up and start rebuilding from scratch, because
they're going to have to. They're not going to get anything out of the roster that they have.
No, they've got an old team. They missed their window closed the year that what was it, 2013? The year that Carson Palmer got hurt, and they went into the playoffs. I think they only had 1 or 2 losses, and they went to the playoffs and lost, were one and done, because they were playing with I think Skelton as the quarterback, or somebody. They had somebody as a quarterback, but that was really a good team. But Carson Palmer was hurt, and they couldn't advance in the playoffs. But their defense was good enough, their offense was dynamic enough, and ever since then they've been trying to recapture that team, and they haven't done it. Now Carson Palmer looks old. You know, he can't do what Kurt Warner did for them.
The only asset that they have offensively is Larry Fitzgerald, who is very likely in the last year of his playing career.
Yeah, I mean, David Johnson was their running back. David Johnson was the guy who was going to carry that team for them and get the pressure off of Carson Palmer, but he got hurt. So now it's back on Palmer to, throw the ball 30 times a game so they have a chance of winning. And he can't do it anymore. He stays hurt.
That offensive line is a train wreck, and they can't protect him. They can't open any holes for a running back. So the two best back in a decent offensive line that can block for you and a running game, they're out the window right off the bat. So it's kind of academic from that point.
I saw a little bit of their game. What was it, last week? Maybe 2 weeks ago now. They played the Eagles. Yes, they played the Eagles on Sunday. I watched a little bit of that game. That was a mess. And then I watched the game 2 weeks ago because the Saints played early that morning, and that wasn't any better. I'm sorry. They are going to be the third place team in the NFC West, because the Rams are playing lights out, and the Seahawks, while they are nowhere near what they were in 2013 and 2014, they are not. They are better than the 0-5 49ers, who are in a midst of rebuild, and they're just going to beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals, what the Cardinals are worse at, the Seahawks and the 49ers, Seahawks and the Rams are better at. So that's just the reality of it. Oh, look at Bob's car.
Bob's got a sunroof.
Bob's got a Corvette. I didn't know Corvettes came with sunroofs. Where's that baby fit in that Corvette?
Jump seat.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, he goes in the back. He's fine.
Yeah,
He's fine. He rides in rumble seat.
He's still little. He can sit almost anywhere.
There you go.
He monitors the gear shift.
Yeah. Oh, I had an inappropriate comment.
How is little Will doing?
Little Will is doing great. Great eater, terrific personality. He's got to get that from his mom. But yeah, he's jabbering to himself. Gets in arguments with his little stuffed animals. He probably gets that from Dad.
There you go.
He's gonna say that.
I too argue with inanimate objects: the TV, the radio,
and
other drivers. Okay, so
they're not inanimate nearly so much as they are deluded. We love them anyway.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
So, Alan, let me ask you this. The Ingram Kamara show, as everybody's been calling it all day long today, going to change that much with this trade happening, or is it just going to be business as usual?
It's going to be business as usual. You might see. I would not be surprised to see. What's the name of the guy? the third string running back right now. Edmonds. Thank you. Because I have the other player in my head right now. But Edmonds, you might see him get a couple carries late in the game. But I think you're going to see a lot more Kamara out there now. The thing about both Ingram and Kamara, I have to say it the way he says it. The thing about those two backs is they are 3-down backs. They can run, they can pass block, and they can catch. So it really takes away the limitations that Peterson kind of gave. One of my complaints about Ingram early in his career was that he wasn't a very good pass catcher. And that whenever he showed up out there, it was like they always seemed to have to put the blocking fullback in. I'm like, oh, wow. Just shoot up the flares and say, we're running the ball now. And Ingram, beginning, I think, in 2013, he seemed to have come back and learned how to better catch the ball and become that more complete back. So that's why you're seeing much more of Ingram now than you ever saw, when Chris Ivory was there, when Pierre Thomas was there, Darren Sproles was there, where it seemed like that was almost like what Peyton was trying to do again with Peterson. Because when they talk about Peyton not knowing how to distribute the ball among three backs, he did it with four. In 2011, we did it with four running backs because we had Chris Ivory in that mix. But it was kind of like trying to make it so, okay, Ingram's my first, second down guy. Peterson is going to be my rotational guy to come in and give Ingram a break, and Kamara is going to be my third down guy, and this is how we're going to work this thing. But what was happening was, Ingram would get the ball, he'd get 4 yards of carry. Peterson would get the ball, he'd either get tackled behind the line of scrimmage or give up maybe a yard. So now it's third and long, and you need – now it's predictable passing down. And I think you saw in that Miami game especially, Kamara could be in there all three downs, and you're able to throw the ball around. Then the next series, Ingram comes in and plays all three downs. You didn't have that flexibility of Peterson. Peterson couldn't pass block. He could catch the ball, but he was like Ingram in the early days where he kind of fought the ball the way he caught it. It wasn't a clean catch where he turned his shoulders and he was going upfield immediately. So, yeah, I think you're going to see more of that. And, those of y'all that are worried that, oh, my God, watch. We'll see in Detroit, Ingram will get hurt, and then what are we going to do? Remember, Tim Hightower got released from the San Francisco 49ers. He doesn't have a job. Darius Victor got released at the end of the preseason. And hello, where's his fan club? His fan club that was griping about they should have cut Lasco and kept Butler. I would have kept Butler. Victor. I go back to that Victor Butler deal.
You did that in preseason too.
I know. I did. But, where's his fan club?
I think that was directed at us, man.
Well, no, not y'all. No, really. It wasn't just y'all. It was a teeming millions from the great unwashed out there who was sitting there screaming.
The great unwashed?
Oh, yeah. I got nicknames for everybody. But, the teeming millions out there who were like, the Saints are stupid. They don't know how to get running back. You should have kept him and got rid of this guy. Should have kept this guy because, it's the same people who are screaming about Muhammad. Why isn't Muhammad playing more? It's always the guys who are on the bench, who aren't on the team, and when you lose, that's what they just keep bringing up, those kind of guys. When we're winning, we're not hearing so much about them. But, you've got backs you can go back and get, in case Ingram gets hurt, who can run in this offense. And that, those two guys, the first two guys that come to mind. Lasco is in the practice squad. So, there are options they're going to have. It's not that not having Peterson's going to hurt us.
It all goes back to what we were talking about before. Do you think Peterson has anything left? If you don't, and I didn't personally think he had much of anything left. So even if he was on the roster, this team would still be in a great deal of trouble when they're not, if a number one running back like Ingram goes down. So I don't, with whether Peterson is on the roster or not, if Ingram has to miss some time with injury, not much changes. You still plug in Kamara in there as a three down starter, and you just have to shuffle your depth a little bit. I think they would have had to do that anyway.
Yeah, and if it makes people feel better, that security blanket of Hightower, given what he did last year, you could always go back to him. There's no rush to sign him. No one's going to sign him. He's keeping himself in shape. I'm sure the Saints, before they pulled the trigger on this trade, made a call to Hightower and say, hey, man, how you feeling? How you look? And, and they still keep tabs on Darius Victor. They're aware of, what he can offer the team. And the fact that he wasn't picked up by anybody, given all these running back injuries, should be a red flag for most people. But, I honestly think that a lot of people who comment on social media watch no other football but the Saints on Sunday and probably LSU on Saturday. I just stereotype the hell out of people. But, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry. I got to listen to this. I got to listen to this crap all day, every day in New Orleans about LSU. And when they lose, it's amazing. There's not a sound. They lost to Troy, and the Saints want to buy. And I'm like trying to find out news, and they're not saying anything, other than a story. I think they wanted to, what it would cost to buy out Coach Ogeron's contract. But other than that, there was nothing really being said about LSU. They beat Florida, and suddenly now there's a lot more LSU news. Now it's not that big because they're playing Auburn this weekend, and Auburn's been destroying people. So I'm not. If I was an LSU fan, I wouldn't feel good. Wait, what?
What does it say about the state of your program to lose to Troy and then beat Florida?
I'll watch the game, and it was a good game. I will say that LSU played a lot better. But there's a guy, Jermaine Funnyman Johnson, I love to watch on Sundays when he does his review of the SEC, and he'd been calling Florida the Florida Skaters, for a long time because they've been just eking out wins. So they would do for a letdown. They lost a lot, and they would do for a loss. And I watched Tennessee, and Tennessee got destroyed. I watched Vanderbilt get destroyed. I watched Ole Miss and whatever they're calling themselves now, the Black Bears, the Land Sharks, which I think they watched entirely too many Saturday Night Live skits to call them that, Land Shark. But you watch those games, and it's clearly there's two classes in the SEC. There's Alabama and Georgia and Auburn. Texas A&M is actually starting to rise a little bit up, but they're about in the LSU range. And then there's just everybody else. Vanderbilt, Florida. Oh, Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky's kind of there. I don't trust Kentucky. But, the rest of it is like Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, now Mississippi State. They're all kind of in that bottom half of the SEC, which it's not very good football. So I can't believe I just went on a college football tirade like this, but I've been watching a lot of college football this year.
You seemed like you needed to get it out of your system. We just figured we'd let you.
There you go. My secret's out.
All right. Moving right along. Back home in the Thunderdome this week, we got the ailing Detroit Lions. What do you think?
Based on the first 3 quarters and probably 4 minutes of the fourth quarter, I would say the Saints were going to easily handle Detroit. And then Detroit figured out it's about time to stop playing football. In the last 8 minutes of that game, they put the fear of God into Carolina, and they really had a good chance of upsetting that team. I almost expected them to win that game because when Matt Stafford has time and he's on, those receivers can do a lot of damage. They can't run the ball, but they can throw the ball a lot. And it's going to be a challenge for this Saints defense. I am still on the fence about the defense. I think they can beat inferior teams, but a guy like Stafford, who's going to get rid of the ball quickly and have receivers like Golden Tate who can get open pretty quickly and do some damage, that's going to be a challenge for this secondary. And that's going to be a challenge for the Saints because they don't rush the passer very well. And I don't think they can get Stafford to hold the ball long enough for that pass rush to get to him. We've got to take away those underneath routes. You've got to make Stafford hold on to that ball and wait for deeper receivers to get open, and then you can get coverage sacks. That's the only way you're really going to slow him down. Bob?
What do you think, Bob?
There's no question about it. And the numbers on paper shake out like it should work in the Saints' favor, especially defensively. And I have been really impressed with the way this young defense has rebounded over the last 2 games. Stafford gets sacked a lot. I was jotting down some numbers while I was supposed to be working. Stafford's been sacked 18 times, and then the news comes out that he got hurt against Carolina, and it's actually somewhat of a question mark whether he'll play or not. I don't think that's an issue. I think Matt's going to play. Golden Tate is by far their best receiver, and Saints fans should remember him well. He's burned this team more than once in the past. But Alan, when you were talking about the underneath routes, that's where the linebacking crew and whichever one of the safeties, probably Vaccaro, that's going to be up close to the line of scrimmage, they've got to clamp down on those underneath routes. Specifically, Eric Ebron, the tight end, and he loves to go to Theo Riddick. He's actually played very well in 2 previous games against the Saints. I think if you can clamp down on those underneath routes, Tate is averaging less than 10 yards a reception. And the Saints cornerback trio of Crawley, Lattimore, and once we get Williams back on the field, they match up well physically against these guys. Miami with a better receiving on paper, in my opinion. Now, a heck of a difference in quarterback, which there's a lot to be said for that. But I really do like the way the Saints secondary matches up against the Detroit receivers. The key red flag for me is how's this linebacking core and the underneath safeties. How are they going to play against Ebron? Golden Tate likes to run the underneath routes, and Theo Riddick. If you can clamp down on those, they can get to Stafford because that offensive line of Detroit is not very good. And like you said, Alan and Sean, Detroit can't run the ball. So as long as that stays status quo, I like this matchup for New Orleans.
I think the big thing too is, the last time we played Detroit offensively, we stunk. To quote Jim Moore, we did not throw the ball very well. I think that was one of those games where Drew Brees did not throw a touchdown, but he threw like 3 interceptions. Our receivers are better than Detroit's corners. And what I saw Carolina do, and part of it is Cam Newton. I was surprised he was able to be as accurate as he was. But Cam Newton put that ball up high where only his receivers can get it. And you saw that again and again and again in key plays. And then for some reason, they forgot that Ed Dixon could even be an eligible receiver. They left him wide open the whole game. And I think that's a game. This is another game where they're probably going to practice a lot about stopping the tight end, trying to stop Fleener. But this is going to be a game again where Michael Thomas is going to have to play big. Michael Thomas is going to have to beat up on those smaller receivers. We could see Snead back, and Kamara is a good weapon. But when he does go to Fleener, Fleener has to make those catches he's been making this season. I don't think he's going to get as open as Dixon was, but I think he will. He has a good chance of making a couple of key plays in the game, especially if Michael Thomas gets going early.
Without a doubt. Detroit does have a talented secondary, very active linebacking core, and an underrated defensive front. Having said all that, they're currently ranked 27th against the pass. Their rush defense is ranked higher. I think like 3rd or 4th, something like that. But they get to the quarterback in their own right. So, like you said, Alan, Mike Thomas is going to have to come up big. Kamara, they're starting to use him. Sean Payton is starting to use him how we have been wanting him to use these last 2 games, and I think the playbook is only going to get wider after that. Especially until Snead gets back. Even if Snead is on the field, we know he's not going to be 100%. He'll be a factor, and it'll be a nice weapon to have back. But this offense, for at least one or 2 more weeks, is still going to be keyed on Ingram's rushing ability, and then the pass receiving threat of Fleener down the seam, Mike Thomas, and Kamara.
You've got to get that safety to come down into the box to try and stop Ingram. And I think with Kamara coming out of the backfield and the swing routes and the wheel routes and just getting those mismatches, maybe even a screen pass, you can do a lot of stuff to expose that Lions team and slow down the rush. And I think the key too is will Armstead come back this week? If Armstead practices, we'll find out tomorrow if he's practicing this week. But if he practices and plays in this game, that changes the offensive line. Now you have Armstead, Pete, Unger, Warford, who is going to be looking for a nice revenge game, and then Ramchak. You got a very good offensive line, a very young offensive line, very athletic offensive line blocking. And with Armstead in the picture, now you can kind of have Fleener on the right side, chipping a little bit. He can move back to the left side when he has to help out Armstead a little bit. But I think, you have a much better offensive line than you would if Armstead's held out again, and then you have to kick Pete out back to the outside and put Clemente in there. I think you're going to get a much better offensive line production in the Dome. Brees gets rid of that ball so quickly anyway. He's being much more careful with the football. I think this is a good opportunity for this offense to really show what it can do. We're finally starting to see all the pieces back together. Willie Snead should play in this game. This is a good game for the Saints to do what they used to do in the Dome and just go out there and annihilate their opponent. I would like to see that. I think the fans would enjoy seeing that. You know, a game where the Saints just come out there and they beat a team by 20 points, like they used to back in the day in 2011 and 2009. You know, where you have those, you know, 37 to 17 or 31-17 kind of ball games where, you know, they're playing stand up and get crunked 10,000 times, and, you know, the crowd's really into it. I mean, that's when it's really fun to be in the Dome.
Bob's never heard Get Crunk live.
You haven't?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. Let me just tell you something, and my daughter's going to laugh at this because I know she's going to watch this podcast later. My son and I went to the divisional playoff game against the Cardinals, and Reggie Bush went crazy. And okay, I forgot what the final score is. It's not that important, but it was like the Saints kicked off so many times. They played stand get crunk every time the Saints kicked off after they scored a touchdown. And yeah, in the beginning, the guy who's the returner for the Cardinals is like, yeah, this is a good song. I can dance to this. We're going to do something. And the Saints score again. And the Saints score again. And you could start seeing this guy's reaction of, I'm sick of this effing song every time. You know, by the time I think it was 42 or something like that, this guy doesn't want to hear this damn song anymore. He just wants to get the hell out of here. He's tired of returning kickoffs, you know, because here they come again. And it was a game. It really was.
I remember that. Timmy Hightower's.
Yeah.
We kicked off.
First play.
And they brought it out to the 20. They kneeled it in the end zone, brought it out to 20. Timmy Hightower hit that seam 80 yards for a touchdown. And I'm thinking, oh, man, it's over.
Well, you know, it's funny because I'm at the game, and the guys in front of us turn around and say, it's okay. They just gave Drew more time to score. We're like, okay. And I think the play where this is an LSU player actually who did this. I think it was Doucette fumbled, and Darren Sharper scooped up the ball, and the Saints went out there and scored a touchdown again. That was really a turning point in that particular game.
Yeah.
And from that point on, it was on. I mean, you know, Reggie Bush returns that punt for a touchdown, which we all saw that coming from a mile away because when you're at the game, you can see the whole field. Just to watch the thing open up like that, you're like, oh my God, there's nobody within between Bush and the end zone. I think the punter tried to get in the way, but I mean, it was an incredible game. That was a fun season. That season and the 2011 season were two really fun years to be in the Dome. There was a lot of fun to watch and be at Saints games. I mean, the crowd just was into it from the beginning. When the Saints are really rolling, when Drew Brees is, you know, on that kind of roll, you can't beat that feeling. You really can't.
There is nothing. I've been to different venues. There is absolutely nothing like the game day experience at the New Orleans Superdome when the Saints are winning.
Oh, we were at when I was in the game. I went to a game in 2011 against the Giants on Monday Night Football. And we had some Giants fans sitting right behind us and stuff. And we were all friendly with them. We bought them a beer and everything else. And, you know, the guys were sitting there and they did the Who Dat chant. And one guy looked at the other and says, man, that's cool. You know, he's just looking around, 70,000 people going, Who that? Who that? You know, oh, yeah, they're like, man, that's cool. And, you know, they kind of were laughing at, you know, how bad the Giants are getting beat and everything else. So, he said, oh, man, we're leaving early. We're going to the quarter. We can't watch any more of this, you know. But they said it's really a fun stadium to be in. They said that, you know, the crowd is into it. You know, the people are dancing. People are cheering. Then, of course, you know, we had that fireman on last week. And the characters, you know, yeah, you got Fireman Ed with the Jets. You've got the crazy fat guy with the banjo and the hat with the propeller in San Francisco. You've never seen him before? You know what I'm talking about? He's got a cape. He's got a beanie on with the propeller, and he plays a banjo for the 49ers. He was like the minor 49er from Scooby-Doo fame.
Yep.
You know, I think that's his name even. But anyway, you know, you've got a couple. You got the melon heads with the Rams, but nothing like the characters that show up in the dome every week.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all part of the personality.
And it's not just the guys that are sitting right there around the field either. These personalities, as Alan says, they are from the floor to the ceiling.
What is it? Section 602, I think it is. That's the famous section of the crazy people up in the terrace level. They're like insane because they just do crazy stuff up there the whole time. Oh yeah,
that's where I've said every game I've gone to except one.
Really? Yeah, they're up in the nosebleeds. I think they are, and they really. I've sat up there before, and you know, you get to see physics at work. Now, this is a long time ago, and I'm going to date myself.
Physics or genetics?
Well, no, physics. I'm going to tell you why. Genetics, too. You could probably say that. But this was in the era of Crazy George. And people who remember the Houston Oilers and Bum Phillips will know who Crazy George is. Crazy George is this wild guy. He wore a jersey, had number 0 on it, he had the wild hair. And he used to bring this drum, and he beat on his drum, and that was his big thing. He did that in Houston, and when Bum Phillips came to New Orleans, he came with him, you know, and that was his, you know, his shtick was beating this drum, and that was, you know, the crowd would get all bumped up about that. Well, he used to sit down in the end zone. Let's see, Charlie Saints used to be in one little corner, and he would be on that same side of the field. I think that's the Girard side. Anyway, he would be down there right by the goal post where the break is, you know, for the emergency vehicles and stuff. He'd be down there. Well, I sat way up in the nosebleed section. I'm watching, and the guy would hit the drum, and he'd hit it, and a couple of seconds later, the sound would reach me. So, yeah, that gives you an idea of the scope and the size of the dome that you just don't think about, you know, how long it took sound to get to me all the way up in the dead center up near the top of the dome when you're sitting and the stadium is like this. You're going, who are those ants out there playing? You know. So,
they took us up to the very top and let us out this doorway to walk down to our seats. The angle, the pitch on those seats is about like this right here.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I said, baby, if you fall, ain't nothing going to stop you but AstroTurf.
That's it. And this is another little story real quick. My friend Adam, we went to a Jets Monday night game in 1983. And we sat in those kind of seats because his dad worked for, it's Entergy today, but it was Nopsy back then. But anyway, he had to sit on the end, and I had to go sit in the middle in those little seats. You're sitting like this, you know. You got no armrest, because you're sitting in the lap of the person next to you. So you're sitting like this, and he had to sit on the end, so at least he can get his leg out. Well, because the incline is so steep in the dome in those areas, you know, by the third and fourth quarter, people are trashed. They're spilling their beer as they're trying to go up the thing because they're rocking back and forth. So he was getting beer on his arm, on his leg. He's just coming home covered in beer. I'm like, you had to sit on the end. That's cool. I'm glad you got all the beer, not me. So, the good old days.
We went to Jerry's World to see the Saints play. Beat the Cowboys in overtime, and
was that the Thanksgiving game?
No,
Spiller.
It was I think it was in 2012, December of 2012. No.
Okay. I think that was the thing. No, that's not the Thanksgiving game. I forgot what year that was. My son will remember in a heartbeat. But the Thanksgiving game.
It was the year before, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was the year before.
Thanksgiving game, that was the one where, you know, we're all in a good mood. We had a good Thanksgiving dinner. I got all my family over, and I am cussing like a sailor. because we weren't playing very well for a long part of that game, and we almost lost if it wasn't for Malcolm Jenkins stripping the ball and then the touchdown pass to Lance Moore. That I don't like watching a game where I feel like that. I mean, that's not a good thing. That's not a good happy holiday, Thanksgiving. I'm glad you all here. That's more of a, what the hell are you doing in my house? All you are ass and face. You didn't bring anything. You eating all my food. When I'm hungry later tonight, there's no food left in the refrigerator for leftovers because you took it all with you. You brought nothing. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm reliving childhood memories here. That's what my house was like in Thanksgiving growing up.
Okay. Bob, give me 3 keys to the Saints pulling this one out on Sunday.
Continue to avoid turnovers. I mean, that's a no duh. But this Detroit defense thrives on turnovers, and the game could actually get out of control, similar to what happened last year if the Saints start turning the ball over. Secondly, you gotta like we talked about earlier, you clamp on those underneath and intermediate routes. Make Stafford hold on to the football. This is my number 1 key to the game. Make Stafford hold on to the football, and I'm pretty positive that the Saints pass rush, interior with Rankins and especially along the outside with Cam Jordan, they'll be able to get to him. And number 3, for God's sake, somebody make a play downfield on this offense or for this offense. Ginn had the one long catch against Carolina. Tommy Lee had I don't remember whether it was against Minnesota or New England. Tommy Lee had a nice play down the field. I want to see one of these guys can start to consistently take the top off of a defense. You don't have to wing the ball downfield all game long. Just show that you're a threat, because if that happens, then Thomas and Kamara and Brandon Coleman, Kobe Fleener, they're going to have so much more room to work. I like the way this Saints offensive line is starting to come together, especially if Armstead is back on the field. Just give Breeze a little bit of time, and one of these other complementary receivers have to start making plays. We have not seen that. Has been the most concerning part of the entire New Orleans Saints team after these first 4 games. So that's my 3rd key. The complementary guys start to make some plays.
Alan, what do you?
Yeah, I was just going to say Willie Snead coming back. That's probably going to be your other guy who's going to start making some plays for you in the receiving core. You just don't have the consistency with Tommy Lee Lewis, with Ted Ginn Jr., and with Brandon Coleman. In fact, I think Tommy Lee probably will be inactive if Snead is playing. Just because that's the kind of game they're going to play. And the other thing I want to add to I agree with all the things that Bob listed. The only thing I want to add is the Saints got to play 4 quarters. Don't let out that gas pedal just because you're up by 14 or 17 or even 21 points, because Detroit all season long has won games either in overtime or close to overtime by playing, that 4th quarter, that last 8 minutes, like it's the end of the world. They really almost beat the Falcons if he just extends the ball. And the Falcons really had that game in control for a long time. And you saw that again with Carolina. If they make a couple of key receptions, that game is going to overtime. And it just didn't happen. But, if the Saints let up, and they're only up by 10 or 14 points, Detroit will come back and beat us. So, we're going to have to keep the gas pedal down the whole game and score almost on every opportunity just so they don't have it. It's not possible for them to come back. There simply is not enough time for them to score enough points to come back. That's not a knock on our defense. That's just the way Detroit plays. Detroit is the new cardiac kids. If we were talking about Brian Sipe and stuff off the air, but they are like that Cleveland Browns team from 1980. They are the cardiac kids. They wait until they're up against the wall and then they come out swinging. And you don't know if you can survive that or not. These next 2 games. We'll talk about the Packers, of course, next week. And by the way, I loved what Aaron Rodgers did to the Dallas Cowboys. That was more exciting than watching the Saints win because I love watching the Cowboys lose, especially in Jerry World. But anyway, these next 2 games that we play are probably the biggest games of the season because we haven't been over 500 since I know it's been the whole 2013 season, but I want to say basically since the beginning of the 2013 season, we haven't consistently been over 500. This will be the first time since then, if we can win Sunday, that will be a game over 500. And if we lose this game and the next game against the Packers, then once again, you're digging yourself out of that hole just to get to 500 again. We're back on that same train, that treadmill we've been on for the past 3 years. And we're a much better team than that 2014, 2015, or 2016 teams. We should be able to get out of this and get to over 500 and start building the winning streak.
I agree. Bob, how can they tell everybody how they can follow you in your work, brother?
Well, Alan, Sean, thanks again for having me on. You know I love to be on with you guys. And hi to everybody out there watching. I know I checked in late. But
hey, we got to ride in the car with you. That was the best part.
that you did. But my work, I work for write for John Hendricks and the Canal Street Chronicles. I can be followed on Facebook and also on Twitter at BOBBYR2613. Also, the Canal Street Chronicles site can be followed at Saint CSC on Twitter, and we have a pretty interactive Facebook account as well. We have a number of different talented writers. We try to cover every aspect and every angle of the game. So yeah, give us a follow. We'd love to have your views.
Absolutely. Well, Bob, as always, you're our unofficial third member to this team. We love having you on. You always have great insight. Your articles are very good, very interesting. So we whenever we're stuck for, man, who are we going to get to talk about the game this week? Let's bring Bob in. Yeah, let's bring Bob. So it becomes like a Bob Newhart show. Hi, Bob.
You bring Bob in from the unwashed masses.
There you go. No, you're not part of the great unwashed. The unwashed is out there in social media, believe me. That is the great unwashed. The teeming millions. If those of you who ever read The Straight Dope before, I highly recommend Cecil Adams' The Straight Dope. That is fun reading. As an old friend of mine from college used to say, it's like popcorn. You just sit there and turn the page, just read. Just bizarre questions that he answers, and it was before the internet. This is how you would find out the answers to strange things like, why is margarine yellow? And he would answer it and explain to you that the actual color margarine is gray, and they color it to make it yellow with food coloring. Right now, everyone's in there throwing out their margarine because it's disgusting sounding. But yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff, and you find out. I used to find out all kinds of – that's how I had this thorough command of totally useless information, reading things like The Straight Dope. I mean, it's just – that's what happens. Mr. Sean, let me ask you something.
Yes, sir. Sure thing.
Why is this episode called Stone Cold Crazy?
It is an old song by Queen.
Okay.
I pulled the names of each show from 80s, somewhat 80s rock and roll music.
Now, as long as it's not Radio Gaga, we're all good.
I wasn't going to use that one.
Good.
After we beat Detroit, I'm going to go with your song title that you picked, and we're going to be Back in Black.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, when I knew you were a wrestling fan, and when I saw Stone Cold, the first person, of course, I thought of was Stone Cold Steve Austin, which
his name is actually Steve Williams.
Okay, well, you see, that's the thing, because for someone in my generation, when I hear the name Steve Austin, I don't think of wrestling because wrestlers, my age, or it's Roddy Piper, it's Junkyard Dog, it's the Hacksaw Butch Reynolds, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Dusty Rhodes, and stuff. To me, there's only one Steve Austin, and oh yeah, that's the only. Hold on, that's way too loud. That is way too loud. There we go. Yeah, if you talk about Steve Austin, you got to have the sound effects. You got to have, this awesome music, this great opening, this whole. I bought the entire DVD set too, by the way. I did because it was like my favorite show. Came on Friday nights on ABC, and
And their highest rated episode had a guest appearance by
Andre the Giant. Yes. Yeah, because you had, you would have these great sound effects. Oh, come on. There he is. Andre the Giant. God, there's so much feedback. I guess I'm too close to the speakers. You reckon? Can you hear the sound now? You're not getting too much feedback?
I can't, but I'm not using my earbuds.
All right, there we go. Anyway, yeah, that's the infamous Bigfoot fight, or famous Bigfoot fight from season 3, $6 Million Man, Lee Majors versus Andre the Giant. He actually has a funny story to tell about that, and I'll tell this one real quick. Then we can kind of wrap it up. He said, he didn't quite know what to do, because Lee Majors kind of did some of his own stunts in this sequence, and he wasn't sure what to do. And Andre the Giant at one point picks Lee Majors up like a rag doll and just swings him around. And Lee's just like, "Okay, what are you going to do with me now?" So, and of course, on the other side of this this tree is a mattress for him to land in. Well, Andre the Giant just throws him instead of going back to the stunt man, throwing the stunt man. He just throws Lee Majors into this on the other side of this tree. And Lee said for a second he thought he was really going to hit that tree. He was surprised how strong he was. So yeah, interesting stuff. Especially if you watch the DVD.
Was notorious for thing. And he was, I don't think it's a big secret, he was a raging alcoholic as well.
He was.
You never knew quite what you were getting when you got Andre.
Well, as a joke, and Lee talks about this too, and you can actually find this on YouTube, an interview with Lee. Lee talks about how, as a joke, they kept giving him beer, and this outfit he had on, and the makeup, it took like 4 hours for him to do all that makeup for his face. And this outfit, you had to have someone help you get out of it. And they gave him all this beer thinking, oh, this is going to be hilarious. This guy's going to have to pee every 5 minutes. He held it the whole time. They said they didn't know where it went. But he didn't get drunk. And he never went to the bathroom. All day they're shooting this. So, yeah.
There's stories about him in Japan drinking like 4 and 5 cases of beer a night.
My God. No wonder he died early. So, anyway, long story short, that's why I thought maybe this was Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it is, in fact, a Queen song. So, and Ronnie Sylvie right now. So Ronnie Sylvie is probably yelling at me right now because I didn't catch the fact this was a Queen song, but that's not where my mind was. I was trying to think of, where this was going.
I try to keep it consistent.
There we go. I got a text from my daughter. It's hard to watch your show while I'm at the library because I want to laugh at your jokes, but I don't want people to look at me like I'm crazy. So, mission accomplished. All right, guys. Thank you again, Bob, for joining us. Sean, you have any final thoughts for the night, or you kind of said your piece early today, or?
Well, if I can just reiterate a point that you made earlier. Guys, you never know the impact that you make on someone else. So it makes the world a much better place if you strive to make that a good impression and not a bad one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Social media has become so negative recently with the anthem protests and politics and God knows what else. Like I wrote on my personal page not long ago, I just try to make people laugh because life is a little, you don't know what else is going on in someone's life. And maybe that laugh that you gave from a terrible joke or a funny meme that you found or whatever, that may be the one thing they really made their day a lot better. So stop bitching, stop complaining, stop whining on social media. People have enough of that in their lives every day. We all know those kind of people where, don't ever ask that person, how's it going? Because, Mr. Pessimist over there will go, well, let me tell you how bad it is right now. Who would talk to that person? You want to. I'm sorry, did I hit too close to home?
Not at all.
Yeah, you want, people have enough every day. Let's try and make people laugh. Let's try and make people's lives happier. Okay, and you'll be surprised how much happier your life is too when you make other people laugh and you make other people feel good about themselves and about the way the world is going. It's easy to believe the negative. It's easy to believe the stuff that pulls you down all the time. It's a lot harder, and it's weird about human beings. It's a lot harder for us to believe the good stuff. Like I always say at my job, let me know when the good days are coming so I really know I can enjoy these again. Because we always seem to talk about things in terms it's the bad days. It's always bad. And we look back at the old days as the good days. Every day can be a good day. So try and make it a good day for you, for everybody else. And you'll be surprised when people are going to try and make it a good day for you. So that's my little happy thought, I sound like Buckskin Bob now. Yeah, it's like Buckskin Bob on old that was a Baton Rouge affiliate. You're not fully dressed unless you first put on a smile, so try and smile a lot more and you'll find out how much better life is if you do that. So on that note, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.